So I think you know a bit of about my story, right? I witnessed horrible things that a child of 8 years old shouldn't have witnessed. So I went through that whole war thing in 1975 on the last boat that was leaving Vietnam when the communists from the north took over. And it's horrible, seeing all that blood, that killing and that violence, and almost dying and drowning on that boat, and then becoming refugees in a camp, and then getting accepted by Canada and having to adapt and grow up here and being bullied. So all of that, I have, many things that I had to go through. I think I did a certain amount of work in order to find inner peace,
Mm.
but I can see how beneficial, I think. So if you can,
Mm.
if you have somebody like me, right? Because there's so many of us refugees who came here to Canada, how would you help someone like me with all the traumas that I had to go through?
Mm. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing a bit about your story, Zuni. And I'm a big fan of your journey. And I think that, first of all, I think that you have done a lot of work within your life to help reconcile with your history, including your documentary project, including the time that you spent in Hong Kong, and including like your relationship with your children, kind of creating a healthy family dynamics between you and your children. So I think first I would really want to highlight that so that you can take like healthy pride in the experiences that you have already had, that really show your strength and your resilience and your capacity to heal and to embrace life. And I think that's the foundation to addressing any pain that might still be there, is just by embracing that positive narrative, that positive story. And then in addition to that, we would work on just some really simple embodiment techniques to help move anything that you might be carrying in your nervous system. And this comes from my training in somatic experiencing, which is a training that I'm still going through. It's a 3-year program, which is a way of addressing trauma through the body and through the nervous system. And it's based on animals in the wild, and that animals in the wild are routinely under threat, but they rarely carry trauma. So they have natural processes of releasing stress after they're in intense situations so that they can continue without carrying the remnants of that stress. And I think the idea of somatic experiencing is that we as humans have just become disconnected from those natural processes. So, if we were to work through some of your intergenerational trauma, we could do some very simple exercises to help remind your body that you're safe, and to release any historical stress that you might be carrying. And then, in addition to that, I think that we would want to embrace like those positive aspects of your culture, um, and really practice those intentionally. So embracing like the Vietnamese cuisine, and of course the coffee, and any practices, rituals, holidays that are dear to you, really being intentional in your practice of those and embracing them and sharing them with your children and sharing them with your parents and your siblings, so that you have these strong connections to your culture that cannot be taken away, even though you're no longer in Vietnam. And the story of your lineage has changed continents. You still have that connection to that culture, that beautiful connection to your heritage. And then in addition to that, I would say the final thing we would want to do is, and I think you're already very good at this, but to create, yeah, to tell your story. So to practice telling your story in a way that uplifts your family, that uplifts and empowers you, and that is inspiring for others to hear, that is inspiring for the world, so that people can learn from what your family experienced, and all of that pain and intensity can be channeled into sources of empowerment and good, which gives your family lineage and you this deeper sense of purpose. Mhm.
That's amazing. It's like music to my ears.
Uh-huh.